Welcome, everybody, to the SEO Vault. I am Mike, your host today, joined by Mark and Marie. Remember, we are on all your favorite podcast stations. Check us out, like, subscribe, share with all your friends, everyone in the SEO industry. We are here with the latest news, updates, brand updates, all the good stuff for you. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. We got some exciting news today, core updates, things to talk about. Our special guest Marie from SEO Algo Secrets, we'll be talking to her about those updates as well. Really quick, just some brand updates. Specifically, want everyone to know about the SEO Mad Scientist testing library. We're working on rolling that now. Is going to be rolling that out now. There's going to be a lot more features, search ability, way to find, test, access the information you're looking for. So be on the lookout for that. Any input is appreciated as well. If you are a fan of the SEO Mad Scientist and would like to be able to reference tests in a specific way, let us know. We'd love that feedback. All righty. That's it, I think, for a little fun intro. Mark, Marie, how's everybody doing today?
Hey guys, doing well.
We had a bit of a introductory chat with Marie, the patient Marie. I was a little late this morning. A very timely chat today. Marie is, I think a lot of people are going to recognize her from the industry. She's been around a long time. And her project that's doing phenomenally well is SEO Algo Secrets. So that's also a timely discussion, as we just mentioned. I'm not going to take too much of Marie's spotlight here, but how tumultuous of a summer we've been having in terms of updates. And by goodness, we have Marie from SEO Algo Secrets. Check out her Facebook group, facebook.com/groups SEO Algo Secrets. That's easy enough. And she also has a YouTube channel, which I'll let her plug in the site if she wants, and all that cool stuff. But yeah, what a timely discussion to have, and we can jump right in, Marie. So thanks a lot for being patient and joining us today, and also hello, old friend.
Yeah, it's been a minute, right?
Has and I've known Marie for a very long time.
Yeah,
probably one of the first few people I've really networked in the industry when I came onto the Facebook group scene. So it's awesome to be reconnecting and having you on the vault and all that good stuff.
it is.
So
It's awesome. I was a huge fan of Mark's from the very, very beginning. I was like all about Mark.
We must have all been in the same groups. I didn't really network with either of you, but I think I was around in the same exact time that you really came into the SEO social sphere, because I came in around the same exact time too, which, we had it was a hot time for SEO training at that moment.
Yeah.
But I think, look, I think around like the Becker days, a lot of people came off the forums, right?
Yes.
There was, we were all kind of nested in these different forums, which used to be really awesome. I haven't been on in a while, but man, like Black Hat World back in the day was so dope.
Yes,
what I mean?
I used to love the, yes, I love those too. I was also a Becker fan, came from the forums. And then the Facebook groups kind of exploded because we were able to talk and, get feedback a lot quicker and carry on different SEO conversations. So I think Facebook was pretty good for the SEO industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from there a few groups popped up, and it spread like wildfire, and more people, there's already the social element of Facebook baked in, and I mean, forums can be, but so many people are already on Facebook with
Well, forums don't really go viral. You know what I mean? A Facebook post is much more easy. It's built to go viral. A forum isn't really built for that. So yeah, the reach is just, we all flock to it. That's marketing.
You also start to have the organic component where you're scrolling, looking at your your niece or nephew's birthday party, and then it's like, oh, a message from this group popped up, and it's the forums. So yeah, it was we all kind of met around that time and began networking, and Time flies. It's been a long time. It's almost 10 years
It was
since we
like
made
talking about
LC.
high school at this point, you know?
It really is. Oof, it's a, it's definitely fun to think about, but
Yeah, time certainly flies fast.
it does indeed. But yeah, I mean, Marie's been around a long time. Anyone that's been around any amount of time is probably going to recognize her. And I think what you're doing is really exciting. So maybe we can bridge in. I mean, I know you've done a ton with on page.
Yeah,
You've just done a ton of SEO in general.
yeah.
Um, and I know you're still working with clients with your
Mhm.
agency and whatnot. So, what drove you to say, "Hey, there's a huge," and I mean, maybe it's just all the updates happening, but what drove you to say, "I really want to open up the, this niche of helping people with updates and navigating updates and whatnot."
Yeah, yeah. So the obsession started about 3 years ago. I have a client that buys websites, brings them in, lets us fix them up, do everything, all of the SEO part. And they had bought a set of sites, and within minutes of putting them into my hands, they went down with one of the major updates. And I just became obsessed with wondering why they went down. I mean, they all went down. There had to be a component that was, that we could figure out. I looked at off page, I looked at on page. And then since the websites were in my hands, I was able to work with them, do whatever I wanted. They didn't care anymore because the sites had completely tanked. So they were sites, affiliate sites, earning large amounts of money, going tanking into earning absolutely nothing. And I just became obsessed with why, and then what can we do to fix them? And so I just started working with them, took I think it was during the summer, took the whole summer, worked on them, and then got them to go fully recover. And I just thought it was a lot of fun. And it was like searching for a needle in a haystack, or putting together an SEO puzzle. And I just really, really liked it. And so just kind of hung out in that industry, started recovering more and more sites. And the more you do it, I think the more addictive it becomes, just like our whole SEO thing. And I really enjoyed it. And so you're taking sites, that were doing really well. Google's tanking them with their algo updates, and then we're bringing them back to life.
It's very cool. Okay. Um,
Are you able to, I mean, maybe, I don't know how much you could talk about it, but do you have any input on what you found with those 10 sites? Because you said you turned them around. What was
Yeah,
it?
yeah. So back then, so that was about 3 years ago, the major component at that time, believe it or not, was on page. And so what they were doing with their on page, they were out of what Google was wanting to see on the first page by about 10%, looking at different elements. I mean, we have a ton of on-page elements that you can look at, but by adjusting that, I was able to pop them back in. So what's going on now and more currently is Google has the ability to turn the dial of any on-page or off-page factor. And it's turning the dial as to how much of it they want to see. So LSI, keyword variations, Yake, keyword, you name it, they can dial it. So what they're doing is turning the dial with each algo change, confirmed or unconfirmed. And if you don't have what they're wanting to see, you are tanking. So you're having perfectly viable sites. They all have the same story. They all were doing really well for years. They were making a ton of money. They thought everything was done right. And then all of a sudden they're wiped out. You're talking first page to out of the top 100.
That's insane. That's
wow.
You adjust those elements, you figure out what the algo wants to see at the time, adjust those elements, they pop back.
And this is, I just want to, for everyone watching and for myself too, I'm assuming these elements weren't page specific. You had to do this across the whole site. It's not like you did one page and saw a page improve kind of thing.
Right. So 3 years ago, we were doing page by page, and you could see those pages improve, and then we would push it through the site. Now you don't see those pages improve. Now it's more like the majority of the site needs to be updated before you see the pages start to pop up. So it is more site wide. It's almost the site wide over time is what's tanking the site. So if you have these elements out of whack, let's say, and the more you have it across the site over time, those are the ones getting tanked.
Makes sense.
And it's more like SEO deficiencies, right? So they're able to turn the dial on any of the elements. And so you now have an SEO deficiency. That's what's causing the sites to go down.
That makes a lot of sense. I guess as SEOs, we monitor a ton of external factors. I mean, Google's black box. The algorithm means the only way we can try to keep a pulse is by looking at as many things that we believe or
Yeah.
are best practice type things. So
Yeah.
my question is twofold, and a question slash idea, but and I guess the biggest thing is like when you see these drops, and I guess it's tough because when people come to you, they might not have been tracking
Yeah.
well at all. But if you have this data, I'm always curious to see how out of parity they might have been with the top ranking sites that didn't drop, right? And how many of those external factors where you can see there was a deficiency there, it dropped, you tune that, it goes back. Have you been able to be privy to any of that, like before and after data? And do you find that a lot of those mainstream's a weird word, but those most popular external metrics are really like the fundamentals? Like you guys have to have that in parity with those top rankings, and maybe another signal was pushing you up with them, but so you got a little lackadaisical. I guess I don't want to be long-winded with the question, but there's like it's like a whole constellation of ideas there. Maybe if you could talk a little bit about some of that before and after data, how much of that you've seen, and any patterns there. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah. So there's a lot of patterns that we've picked up on. And also it's through the years, they've made it to where it's getting crazier and crazier, because you can be out by 1 or 2% and get knocked out. That's not a lot of changes. I mean, it's a lot of changes across an entire site, but it's not, it's not 100 changes per page. It's just little things, and they're able to. So like, for instance, I had one client come in, we fixed up the site, and honestly, the one thing that was wrong with that particular site was they were missing particular entities for their topic. So that is just, it's minute. It's like they are really just picking on every little thing at this point, and they have that ability. So, and it can be across the board, on page or off page. You can have your off page slightly out of what they want to see, and your site is going to be hit by one of the many updates that we have.
That makes a lot of sense. That's actually really scary too. I want to revisit for everyone that hears that, 1 to 2%. That's like usually that would fall inside like a standard deviation. Like we're gonna give you guys some type of leeway.
Yes.
That's
When you think
that's
about it, though, they're ranking millions of sites in a SERP. Like they almost have to get that granular at some point if they want to create a truly
that's
functional,
true. Yeah.
usable SERP. That's the best, right?
No,
Yeah.
that's true because once you create that, yeah, that's very true. That's a really good point, Mike. You
It's
create
scary
that
for us,
standard.
but yeah, it's needed, really.
Yeah, that standard deviation could end up encompassing. I mean, if you ever do it, even like a local query, you see how many documents Google spits back, like the total
Yeah.
result. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess that does make sense. It's still a little scary. We really have to be on our how SEO has evolved, right? Holy moly! Like SEO really used to be a lot more simple, right?
It used to be a lot simple, right? Because I mean, when we first got on the scene, we were paying attention to mainly backlinks. I mean, literally, when I first started, I was probably doing backlinks on Monday and issuing the client report on a Friday saying, look how great it is. I mean,
We all turned into white hat SEOs. That's how complicated it became.
yes. And then we all went white hat and started looking at on page and paying I think now you have to really pay attention to all of the elements and what they need to be, which is why I started focusing a lot with on page, because with on page, I was able to control a lot of it. Whereas with backlinks, I wasn't able to have as much control. And then with on page, it led me into recovery work. And really, it's just intensifying, right? We used to have a few updates here and there, but now we've got confirmed updates. We had 9 confirmed updates last year. And then we had, I can't even count how many unconfirmed algo changes they had. We can't even count them anymore. So it's like sites are going down all of the time with people who do good SEO. And so it's changing. So in the beginning, remember in the beginning when people would get hit with penalties and we'd all laugh and say, well, what did you do wrong? What are you doing, black hat? And we would laugh, and then people would say, well, my sites never get touched. And those were like the golden people, right? Well, it's not like that anymore. Now it's just algo changes. We're not getting penalties. We're just popping out of rankings. They're trashing sites, but it's, and I work with a lot of people who are out there that do good, really good SEO, but you can't, I mean, you really have to focus and pay attention. And if you're running an SEO business or you're running a different business, you don't have time to figure out what they changed in the algo this time, or, you know, or to stay on track with it. So I think it's a lot crazier now. And like you said, we have to be a lot better at our craft. And it's not as easy as it used to be. And you have to really pay attention to all of the elements and not just some of the elements like we used to.
It's opened up opportunity though for other SEOs. I remember back in the day thinking there's no way I could rank in this SERP because I can't build 5 million links quick enough. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Sure. Real quick question. What would you say the split between like e-commerce or affiliate or anything that's more geared towards a national ranking as opposed to local? Because we're still admittedly very heavily in local. What are you seeing that split, and are you seeing, I've been telling people like local has got it. I love ranking the national projects we're ranking. I'm enjoying that a lot more because it's not easier, but it is simpler. It's just there's, you know, we're not dealing, mind you, for my projects, I'm not dealing with you know, 200-300 SKUs on a e-commerce site. I'm dealing with very, you know, easy queries. There's nothing I'm not dealing with crazy internationalization problems. I'm not, like, I just don't have any highly technical SEO outside of your cookie cutter stuff. So it's like, you know, if you would talk a little bit about your experience, what you're seeing in local as opposed to national, or just any insight there, I think people would enjoy that. I know I would.
Yeah, so Google started, I mean, they were really hitting affiliate hard, and it was mainly affiliate only getting hit. And you could hear people say, well, I'm an e-com, so it's not bothering me. Well, Google is figuring out how to branch out. So it's not just affiliate. I'm working on recovering local sites now. I'm working on recovering e-com sites. There's like, and it's just becoming more and more. So the way I see it is it's going to get more intense. There will be more, you know, Google updates and algo changes, and they will be able to go through local, national, e-com, affiliate, whatever they want to go through. And so it's just going, so right now, local is still sitting pretty nice compared to what they did to affiliate, but I think it's coming. I think they have those abilities, or they're fixing those abilities to be able to do it. So I think local is going to get a pretty big wake-up call. When, I have no idea, but we're slowly starting to creep into recovery work on local sites.
And that's interesting. If someone were to come to you, Marie, and say, "Hey, I just got," and I understand this is like a client question. It's a frustrating question, but in terms of timelines, if someone's working with you or they're implementing some of your advice, what type of timeline, like reasonable timeline, do you try to set to make sure you're like, you know, is it a couple of tweaks? Can it be a long drawn out process? Is it a it depends answer, which is fine? I know it's like a really, it's definitely, how long is it going to take? But I'm curious of different experiences you had?
Yeah, so it really depends on the size of the site. I work on a ton of really big sites. So if you come in with 400, 500, 600 ranking pages, you're looking at 4 to 5 months to get it completely turned over.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of delays, right? We can make a lot of changes. We've got to watch rankings, then we come in, maybe make a couple more. And it's not like 2 little tweaks per page. A lot of the sites, if they have one SEO deficiency, they probably have 4 or 5. We just didn't hit all of them, and the site won't float back up until you've hit all of them. So, and you're talking about 15 to 20 pages per page multiplied out across. And it depends, because sometimes you've got backlink issues. They went too hard on their anchors, or the backlinks aren't topically relevant, or all these little things they're able to fine tune. So if it's a big site, I'm looking at 4 to 5 months to get it turned back around. And it depends on what they were hit with and what they had wrong on their site. So I did a case study where we turned one around in 3 months, which is best case scenario, honestly. But for local, we're able to turn those sites around quicker. You're looking at 1 to 2 months, because most of those sites aren't as large. They're smaller. Unless it's unless it's local, and they're in every single state, every single city. But if it's a few cities or a few states, we're able to make the changes through there quicker, because it's just not as much.
It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's
It kind of sounds like, how long does it take? So essentially, if you do SEO right, you're generally looking at like 1 to 4 months for it to really kick in.
Yeah.
Is really what it comes down to in like our whole SEO world, depending on size of site and everything. But actually, I just wanted to ask real quick. One of the things I know that used to be a major issue with penalties and things is that, unlike now, we see all these changes happening quickly, but we had to like wait for a refresh for something to actually kick in. That's something you see still at all?
Yeah, so we still deal with that for like the core updates. You have to have a core update, confirmed or unconfirmed, come through before the site will go pop back. But it depends, and it depends on what they were hit with, because if you were hit with a spam update, those refresh instantly as soon as you get the majority of the site taken care of. It's overnight. They pop back. Okay. So it depends on what they were hit with and what we're dealing with. Spam is instantaneously, we can get it to go back. Core, we have to wait for confirmed or unconfirmed. There's a lot of unconfirmed rollouts of the core, and that can refresh your site and get it to go back if you've made all of the changes they wanted to see.
Interesting. It sounds backwards from the way it used to be. It was like the regular algorithm updated all the time, and like the spam, you had to wait for them to come and refit. So obviously a sign they got better at spam, I guess.
Yeah, the spam update is pretty fast to make the changes, get it to revert back. The core update is probably the harder one to get it to pop back, and and it's just a lot of different changes with the core. The spam update, you can do it pretty quick.
Very cool. Here's something, just out of curiosity, and maybe especially because it sounds like you work with a lot more non-local than I do. So I'm really curious to hear your input here. But a few years ago, Mike, I know you were at least involved in the conversation. I can't remember if you tested with us. Jake was mentioning it, and we started tinkering around and trying to penalize local sites. We were trying to catch a manual penalty, not algorithmic, and we weren't able to do it. And in the whole time, and by God, this isn't some weird flex like where people. I love when you mention people posting my sites didn't drop. Listen, if you don't have sites drop, you don't have enough sites, buddy. That's all I always have to say. That like SEO, like there's no need to have this like false flex, like But like I've seen so few local penalties, manual penalties, in the pretty extensive career I've had here. And it's like I don't, again, it's not like an us thing. It's like I see a ton of, I talk to agencies all the time. We don't see a ton of penalties. And then the other day, was on Facebook and in one of the groups. I lurk around, Marie. I know you said what happened to you, Mark. I just lurk. I don't really talk as much as I used to, but I do. I creep around. And I saw someone mentioning it's like penalties all the time in non-local, and I was like, holy hell! I didn't hear much about this, so I'd love to know how many manual penalties are you seeing these days, or how
I
much of it is algo?
Yeah, I haven't seen a manual penalty in 3 years. I haven't seen
Wow,
one at all, and it's been all algo changes. I have not
interesting.
I have not seen a penalty, and I haven't, the circles that I'm hanging around, we haven't really talked about penalties in a long time either. I think they're just going through the algo changes now, and that's how they're going to catch most of the sites.
Interesting. I guess I'm not going to name drop his niche or maybe even him, but the guy I do know the guy works in some really spammy niches. So maybe it's different there.
Yeah,
Um,
it's probably a lot different with the spammier niches. So
that's interesting to hear, though, and honestly, I like to hear that. I wish we could get a point where it takes less time to recover,
yeah.
and Google gets a lot more reactive to our changes. But I love the fact that we're not, we're seeing less manual penalties. So
I feel like you
that's
just made
nice
that
to hear.
statement, Mark, but said it was a scary thing for SEOs. Now you're saying hopefully Google reacts quicker to those changes.
Well, I think it's scary to have like no standard deviation.
Yeah,
That like I like when
that's a
Oh,
Google's
problem.
gotcha.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
yeah.
problem.
So those two things combined, though, is going to create chaos in the SERPs, though, is what it comes down to.
Sure. I mean,
Yeah,
before you did the intro, we were having a chat, and
yeah.
we mentioned when Nate had Al Guru up the other day, and Marie, you obviously you knew this
Yeah,
too. But I mean, if you look at this summer, the updates, the volatility, and the SERPs compared to everywhere else,
it's
I'd say the chaos. We're living in the chaos now,
we are.
and
We
it's
are.
it's
It's been
crazy.
volatile all summer. I don't know if we've ever had a summer that's been volatile the entire summer. And then they're ending it with a core update for fun. So
Icing on the cake.
yeah. So I'm seeing more and more sites that are getting hit that honestly have I, you know, good SEO. I try to put that out there. I'm trying to change how we feel about it because we're coming from the penalty days and people feel bad. I've had people have to drink liquor before they can hit me up and say, hey, I need you to work on a site because they feel like they've done something wrong. And I'm like, you've done nothing wrong. The algo keeps changing. I mean, it's going to happen. So it's just changes, and we're either going to change with it or we're not.
That was
And
a point you brought up before, that in our industry we kind of had this bully the penalized mentality. Like,
we
oh, you must
did.
have been being black hat or being a bad
Yes,
person if you got
you were
penalized.
bad. Yep. And we would look down on it. And then people would like flex and say, oh, I've never been hit. And those were, I mean, and those days are gone. They're just gone. And now I work on sites of people that I've signed NDAs. I can't say exactly who all these people are, but they're really good SEOs.
Yeah.
So you're going to get hit. I mean, I don't care how good you're doing it, how good everything is. Eventually, one of the algo changes will catch up. It just will. It's just the way that it is now.
Yeah. SEO driving you to drink. I like that.
Yes.
I like
Yes.
that a
I mean, I'm
lot.
not gonna say I don't know what that's like, but
um, so I think a really good one because everyone's seeing the volatility. So I think the big point you want to make, Marie, and that I think is going to be beneficial for us and anyone who views this is, what can we do, right? That's the big note we have here is like, there's things we can look for now potentially. What can we update? What can we tweak? It
Yeah,
sounds like in some cases it might be trying to delay the inevitable, but what can we do to try to, like, reinforce our sites as best as possible?
Yeah, so there's a lot of different triggers. Like I said, they can, they dial in any element on page or off page, and that's a lot. There's a lot, probably elements we're not even aware of at this point. So it's a lot. But some of the biggest triggers that I see causing sites to go down are lack of entities, lack of topically relevant entities. I don't mean just gather a whole bunch of entities from all the different topics and throw them onto a page. I mean, they have to be topically relevant, but if you're missing some of the major key entities, you're going to get eventually hit. And the problem is that we systemize most of this work, right? So what happens is if you're setting up content and you're not really paying attention to the entities, odds are you're doing it across the site. And that's where it becomes a problem. So if the majority of your site is lacking entities, over time, you're going to get hit. So that's one of the major ones. So start paying attention to the entity tools. There's a lot of tools out there that have been developed that do a really good job. It's not like how we used to do it, where we would have to, pull them through Wikipedia and TextRaiser and all these things. So now it's really easy, but you just want to pay attention to it. And also you want to pay attention to thin content, which a lot of people would kind of laugh at and not really pay attention to. But what's happening is if the majority of your site is thin or having entity problems, you're going to have a problem with the algo update. So it's more about paying attention, making sure we're just putting up, I hate to say good content, because I would hate every time someone said that, I would roll my eyes, but you're just kind of crossing your T's and dotting your I's right now with your entire site. If you have pages that you have forgotten about that have 200 words on them, you just want to pay attention. Are people out there doing 200 words, or are they beefing it up a little bit? Pay attention to those little things. That's what's causing the sites to go down.
I'm really curious your take on AI content, Marie, and where
there's a lot of people out there saying Google hates AI content, or you're going to get hit if you use, I think I saw someone say, let's see if this Google core takes down all the AI content. Well, AI, I don't think Google's targeting AI content. I don't think they can. I think that AI content is the future, and that's the way we're moving. And so it's how you structure your content. That's what you have to pay attention to. I don't care if it's a human writing it, if it's a bot writing it, if it's whatever it is, it's the structure. So if you're overusing keywords, if you're leaving out entities, if you're, don't care what AI spit out, it's going to have problems. And I work with a lot of sites that have nothing but AI content, and they're doing great. There's nothing bothering them. So it's not about having AI content or not. It's about how we're structuring it.
Nice. I mean, that's my belief too. So just good to hear someone, especially when you're dealing with penalties and stuff. That's important for people to know that, we have someone here that's recovering sites, and AI content hasn't been.
No, I haven't seen any issues with just AI content. It's how we're structuring it, because that's how Google is able to find us, or whatever it is that they're doing. So if your AI content is poorly written, and then you put it across a large site, you're going to have problems. Period.
Sorry, just because you mentioned about entity optimization, but there's kind of this interesting thing where, like, if you use a tool and do entity optimization and then go to AI and say, like, use these entities, you'll get a result. But if you go to AI and say, give me a list of entities, and then say, use that list of entities, do you recommend doing research? Do you recommend solely relying on AI to be able to accomplish this type of research, or would you still say you need to get outside the AI for those details before you're having it do those things?
Yeah, so I've used both. I've used AI and I've used some of the tools that I like. The tools that I like are still performing better than the AI for some reason. So I go to AI and make a topical list. I go through all the entities, and it's just not as good as some of the tools yet. I'm sure it's going to advance and become better at some point. But right now, I can't depend on AI. to do the entity part of it.
Yeah, okay. That's because I see a lot of SEOs promoting that, and even I've done some training on using AI for research, and with even ChatGPT, you could post a link and have it read the content and do stuff, which is great. But a lot of people have just said, create this list of entities, tell me, create these details, expand, and haven't gotten the best results from that. I found
I haven't. Yeah, I haven't either. So I've done that and then compared it to the tools, and the tools were just knocking it out of the park. And I'm able to use the tools to recover the sites. So I know that they're pulling good entities, but AI is still lacking in that right now. I don't know what the problem is. But I'm sure it will advance at some point, but it's not there yet. I wouldn't use it for that.
Awesome.
I definitely use it for research. I definitely use it to start the entity list. I use it for topical list. I mean, you can definitely start them and take a look at it, but I just don't think it's there. Not to recover sites anyway.
Mm-hmm. Makes
That,
sense.
that makes a lot of sense. Marie, if I could quickly sum that up, it sounds like you're saying if people are having algorithmic fluctuations, you feel bad for them, son, but you got 99 problems and entity optimization isn't one.
That's right.
That was
You
corny.
probably have more than 99 problems.
Darn, Marie.
Yeah, you probably have more, honestly. But yeah,
One
it's
of
just
them was definitely that corny response there. I'm embarrassed. No, having said that, I think that's all super amazing. So we come just to circle back, Marie. If you want to drop any downloads you have, of course, how people can work with you, what type of people you typically work with. I don't know if it's a lot of agencies.
I work with nice people that are not crazy. No,
Oh man, that's an
no.
inside joke. I know what you were doing there? That's an old inside joke, maybe. I understand what you're saying there. I
Yeah,
wasn't
no.
the crazy one, guys. Just to be clear, I was not the crazy one, but I do know what you're talking about. That was scary.
Yeah.
That's terrible for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give you some links that you can put up. I have a case study out there that people can read where we recovered a site and we talk about all the steps that we went through. A lot of people like to read that because it's more educational than anything. I'll give you links to the group and maybe the YouTube channel, stuff like that. And that's how people a lot of times ask how they can find me. A lot of times people find me on Facebook or they go through a site and fill out a form, but 9 times out of 10 people find me on Facebook for some reason. It's just the way that it is now, the way that we do business.
That's perfect. Happy to share all those links. Anything you have, that'll be great. And I guess as a final thought, not that my not that Marie needs any validation, but I've known Marie a long time. She's a great person. I've never had a bad experience, nor can I ever remember anyone having a bad experience with Marie. So I would highly recommend connecting with her if you have any type of issues. And Marie, you've always been awesome. We've always been buddies. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I feel good about helping get the word out as much as we can, and I love elevating good people. So I'm happy to
I
share all those
appreciate it,
links.
Mark. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. So happy to share all those links. Really appreciate the conversation.
Good stuff.
This is
Yeah.
very cool, and I'm happy we had this, and I think it'll help a lot of people, especially again. This summer's been crazy,
Yeah.
and it's probably not going to slow down, right? I mean,
No, I think it's just going to keep intensifying and eventually be, as much in local as it is an affiliate, e-com, whatever. So I think it's just going to intensify, which I guess is fun. I mean, more problems to figure out, but we have an agency and we're dealing with people that get hit all the time, and it's just kind of all the time now, where it used to not be, right? It would kind of be few and far in between, but now it's just every single week we're getting in new clients, new sites, and they've all been hit with the algo changes. So it's intensifying.
no, That's
Awesome.
well. Glad we have you, Marie.
Fighting a good fight
be our
for
North,
us. Yeah.
to be our North Star here. Marie, thanks so much for coming on. I'm sorry again. I was a few
Oh,
minutes late.
no problem. No problem. It
It
wasn't a
was
big
great
deal.
catching up. You're freaking
Yes.
awesome. I'm glad we caught up, and love what you're doing, and hope to support it and
Yeah.
watch you catch some ass. So it's
All
great,
right.
Marie. Thanks so
All right.
much.